这一次我真的睡着了。这一次我真的睡着了。
Calling the attention of everybody, especially the chosen people of God, searching for the truth to contemplate on this matter in preparation for the unfolding of God's divine plan. We are all duty-bound to serve God in our country in whatever humble and rightful ways we can. Rich and poor has to get involved in support for the truth that will enlighten everyone, especially the people of God. In order for us to understand God's mysterious plan, let us set aside for a moment our differences and for a while contemplate on this very unique, extraordinary and once-in-a-lifetime discovery. But before that, in order to understand clearly, let us read the passages in the Old Testament in Ezekiel 43:10-11 that says, Son of man, describe the temple to the house of Israel, that they may be ashamed of their iniquities, and let them measure the pattern. And if they are ashamed of all that they have done, make known to them the design of the temple and its arrangement, its exits and its entrances, its entire design and all its ordinances, all its forms and all its laws. Write it down in their sight, so that they may keep its whole design and all its ordinances, and perform them. How then do you write it down in their sight? The pattern, designs, forms, ordinances, and laws of the temple, by means of the gifted hand that drew the messages that it had been trying to convey. It is better to explain the biblical passages in a way that anybody can easily understand. Son of Man stands for any human being with a touch and spiritual guidance and blessings of God to undertake godly missions or purpose. And in this case, the Son of Man is shown in the map of the province of Rizal in the Philippines, being the artist who had drawn the line drawings on the maps together with the oil paintings of those line drawings. You can see also the Son of Man mentioned, drawn in oil paintings. He has the ability to see with his third eye the messages written by God on the maps, world and Philippine maps. He is also the writer of all the manuscripts that explain the baffling mysteries of the books of the prophets in the Old Testament and the Apocalypse of St. John through the guidance of the divine power. The Temple of the Hounds of Israel represents the Philippine map with line drawings that show the name Israel in 4 directions as to north, south, east, and west orientations, which is the new Israel of this dispensation of time. The pattern, designs, ordinances, laws, and all its forms are relevant to the messages drawn on the maps, with the line drawings to show the past, present, and the future. Write it down in their sight. The name Israel in the Philippine map is formed by touching edges of the islands. It was a puzzle made by God. Only those with spiritual eyes can readily understand. There are many passages in the Bible that will show and prove that the Philippines is the chosen country in the East and has a role in spiritual enlightenment and salvation of the chosen people for the golden era of the chosen countries in the East. God had written down his messages in the world map itself before he told the prophets of old to write down the messages for us to read, analyze, and understand. The messages are relevant to our time, which is the end of time. So in order for us to acknowledge the existence of God and his powerful presence among us, I will show you as we go on some of the different line drawings. These are actually more than 1,000 messages for us to see, together with some of the oil paintings of the messages from the line drawings. And the most rendered by Mr. Abaya, visionary artist and founder of the Dakilang Kapisanan ng Bagong Lahi, or in English it means Great Assembly of New Race 21, which can be read in Psalms chapter 40 verse 9 to 10. He is formerly an artist researcher of the Ayala Museum, who built the miniature-sized model watercrafts of olden times like the Manila Galleon, Lorca, Arabian Bagla, Chinese Junk, and Carabel. He was commissioned in 1972 by the Ayala Museum to make the different miniature-sized watercrafts mentioned, and also several of the three-dimensional perspective dioramas depicting the history of the Philippines. He sculpted more than 1,000 figurines used in the making of the dioramas, like the Panday Pira canon making, Open City, Japanese entering Manila during the Second World War, pottery making in Bicol, Brother Juan Clemente Hospital. The UST Construction. Manila Galleon of 1750. Napak at biyak na ba to? The execution of Dr. Rizal in 1896. The cry of Pugadlawin. The American retaliation. Battle of Gingoa in 1899. The first printing press. He also wood sculpted the Tasaday family costume dolls. He did group exhibitions under the auspices of the Philippines Foundation Incorporated. He was sponsored in 1977 for his one-man show by Don Jaime Subel de Ayala and the then Ambassador Leonard Tosse of France about the oil paintings of genre, interpretation, or proverbs. He was able to make the line drawings on the world and Philippine maps as shown to him by the Almighty God, and transferring the messages of the line drawings on canvas, oil painting, the Code of God, which is more than the Picasso's abstract oil paintings used as the code of war in the Second World War. He was a mountain climber for 25 years and very fond of communing with nature. With his encounter with nature, his knowledge about the mysteries of God were opened. He was on the headline of People's Journal, Panorama magazine in 1980 about the only hope, and of succeeding publication in other newspapers and magazines. He was able to open the sealed books of the prophets. Like Daniel, Zacharias, Malachi, Ezekiel, Amos, the Apocalypse of St. John, and others, complete with answers to baffling mysteries. The manuscripts of the books in Filipino language is yet to be translated in English, and thereby calling for all the people of God to help materialize these God-given mysteries to be unfolded for all the chosen people of God in the end times. The manuscript will need a helping hand in translation and printing in order to reach the people of God in the whole world before the coming of the dreadful day of the Lord. This is a call for those gifted of God to help and sponsor this wonderful task of projecting the messages that will benefit not only the Philippines but also the chosen countries in the East, together with the chosen people of God from all the nations of the world. So much so with this introduction, you can see the Philippine flag. It was handed to Madam Imelda Marcos in January 29, 1998, which is the seventh seal according to Apocalypse chapter 7 verse 2. Then I saw another angel ascending from the east, having the seal of the living God, and he cried with a loud voice to the four angels to whom it was granted to harm the earth and the sea. And Apocalypse chapter 8 verse 1. When he opened the seven seals, there was silence in heaven for about half an hour. The angel was Elias, The angel was Elias Ferdinand Marcos Sr. And east is the Philippines. The four angels are the four leaders of four powerful countries of our time. The seal of the living God, which is the triangle and the cross together. The cross that is standing over the triangle is of godly significance. The triangle is strongest among the polygons. The cross represents the first seal in the Apocalypse of St. John, which is the symbol of Jesus Christ in his sacrifice for humanity. And the triangle representing God in three persons. The triangle can be seen in the Philippine flag, representing the three major islands in the country. Joining the cross and the triangle together form the last seal, signifying the end time. The seventh seal is the culmination of the Word of God. The design of the seventh seal was shown to Mr. Simeon Abaya in the seven visions. The seventh seal is composed of 7 points, which is the triangle and the cross together. These are the 7 seals mentioned in the Apocalypse of St. John. The first seal is the cross. The second seal is the swastika used by the German. The third seal, hammer and sickle of the communists. The fourth seal, crossbone, representing or symbolizing death. The fifth seal is the dakilang kapisanan ng bagong lahi, or the Great Assembly of New Race, verse 21. The sixth seal is the United Nations flag. And the seventh seal is the seal of the living God, which is the new flag of the Philippines in the future. By this, according to Apocalypse of St. John chapter 12 verse 1. Now a great sign appeared in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun, with the moon under her feet, on her head a garland of 12 stars. You can see the woman mentioned is actually the map of the Philippines, composed of 12 regions plus the national capital region, which is the chosen country in the east as the new Israel projected as a woman. The garlands of 12 stars represents the 12 towns in the northern part of Luzon, which is in the head of the woman in the line drawing. When the country was granted its independence in July 4, 1946 by the Americans, and then became 13 towns, because one town, which is Nueva Vizcaya, had been divided into 2 after, with Quirino province being the 13th town. Philippines is located in the tropical zone, wherein the sun's rays is focused most of the daytime, and the cut of the moon can be seen clearly at the foot of the woman, touching the edge of the sun in the drawing. The sun represented in the line drawing on the Philippine map was drawn following the curvature of Indonesia, with its reference point in the nipple of the woman in the line drawing, which is the southern part of the island of Mindoro. This woman had been oil painted with a dragon under her feet, as mentioned in Apocalypse chapter 12 verse 3. And another sign appeared in heaven. Behold, a great fiery red dragon, having 7 heads and 10 horns and 7 diadems on his head. The red dragon is Red China, together with the 10 countries, 10 horns, in its vicinity, which are the following: Russia, North Korea and South Korea, Japan, Taiwan, North Vietnam and South Vietnam, Laos, Thailand, and Cambodia. And the 7 heads are the 7 leaders of the 7 countries near its border, having diplomatic relations with Communist China. And the 7 diadems are the 7 powers of the 7 leaders of those countries. In Apocalypse chapter 2 verse 13 it says, I know your works where you dwell, where Satan's throne is, and you will fast to my name and did not deny my faith, even in the days in which Antipas was my faithful martyr, who was killed among you where Satan dwells. Take note of this. You can see clearly the whole territorial boundary of China appeared to be as the likeness of Satan, sitting as if he is on the throne, holding an axe with a snake on his feet, of which eyes is projected by the lake. In another line drawings, you can see the representation of the whole boundary of China. In the world map, please scrutinize and analyze the significance of this discovery for our spiritual enlightenment. Moses was commanded by God to carry the Israelites to the promised land, but he was not able to reach it. Before he died, he told Joshua to continue, but neither he was able to reach the promised land because of the stubbornness and transgression of the people. The Israel that is known today is a man-made Israel because Joshua was not successful in finding and reaching the promised land. He just told the people, this is it. After wandering in the wilderness for 40 years, in order to preserve the confidence of the Israelites in him, the spirits continued the exodus of Moses and were able to reach the promised land during the conquest of the Japanese in the Philippines in the Second World War. In the exodus of the Death March from Bataan to Capas Tarlac, many Americans and Filipino soldiers surrendered and been captured and were forced to walk the long stretch of the road without any provisions from Bataan to their destination in Capas Tarlac. Many were sick and died from heat, exhaustion, hunger, and tears, and were bayoneted to death. Philippines had been identified in our time as the only Christian nation in the East, with all the richness of God endowed on her. But this country had been cursed by God because of the disobedience of Adam and Eve, until such time that God will have mercy and bless the people with all the blessings prepared for her since time immemorial. The land of promise is the Garden of Eden, where Adam and Eve were created by God. It only goes to show that it is just going back to where it all started, like a circle with one reference point. The richness of the Philippines as the promised land is just waiting to be explored. With this vast deposit of high-grade quality oil, gold, mineral deposits, and other raw materials, Philippines will undergo an abrupt change economically and become the leading spiritual power in the East. There was once a message for us to take notice of. It happened in 1969 when Gloria Diaz of the Philippines had won the crown in the Miss Universe beauty pageant. In the same instance, Apollo 11 landed on the moon, and when Neil Armstrong, commanding officer of the Apollo 11, asked the monitoring post on Earth about what is new on Earth, the answer is Gloria Diaz of the Philippines had just won the Miss Universe crown. The message is this: Gloria Diaz of the Philippines won the Miss Universe crown, translated as Glory Days for the Philippines in the universal power. You can see the profile of the old man, one of the 24 elders of the Apocalypse of St. John, wearing the native hat named Salakot, playing the native guitar. He was the one who handed down to Mr. Simeon Abaya the messages of the line drawings on the maps, the answers to puzzling biblical passages of the books of the prophets, the biblical superstructure called Dan Macrisma. and the riches of the country. There are lots more to show if only someone with a kind and generous heart will help in the pursuance of this precious goal, to reach the whole world before the judgment day of the Lord. Half of the world was being handed over to former President Ferdinand Marcos by God in the Philippine map, being the angel promised by Jesus Christ according to Matthew 11:14. And if you will receive it, this is Elias, which was for to come. King James Version. In his name, F. Edolin Marcos, the name Elias had been derived. Apocalypse 21, verse 17. And he measured the wall thereof 144 cubits, according to the measure of a man, that is, of an angel. Take note of this. There are three things to consider: the wall, the angel, and the man, which measures 144 cubits. The wall is the biblical superstructure, with acronym composed of 12 letters called Danmakrismo, to be erected as a dedication to the opening of the golden era of the East. The first and second temple in Jerusalem were destroyed. This will be the third temple, as represented by the three standing women, symbolizing Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao, which are the three major islands in the Philippines, which will be the landmark and the guiding light of the East. 144 cubits can be computed in the name Danmakrismo, Ferdinand Marcos Sr., the father, Ferdinand Bongbong Marcos Jr., the son, using the formula ABC equals 1, 2, 3. And according to Isaiah 41 verse 25, I have raised up one from the north, and he shall come from the rising of the sun, shall he call upon my name, and he shall come upon princes as upon mortar, and as the potter treated clay. Raise up one is Ferdinand Marcos becoming president of the Philippines, and as Elias in the spiritual. North is Ilocos Norte, the birthplace of former President Ferdinand Marcos. Northern part of Luzon, Philippines. Rising of the sun, East, Philippines. In the prophecies of Nostradamus of France, who wrote the book of prophecies named Centuries, it says in quatrain I, 76 about Ferdinand Marcos Sr. He will be called by a wild name. The wild name were Hitler, Lupus, Dictator, Greatest Thief according to the Guinness Book of Record, Corrupt. So that the three sisters will have destinies named. The three sisters were Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao, the three major islands of the Philippines. He will lead the great people by word and deed, chosen people. He will have fame and renown above all others as Elias. Quatrain X 75, it tells about his son Ferdinand Bongbong Marcos Jr. It says, long awaited, he will never come in Europe. He will appear in Asia. One issued from the great Hermes, he will be over all the kings of the East. In this line drawing, the angel on a horse with a torch in his hand destroyed by fire the countries in the battle of Armageddon. Apocalypse 16 verse 16. The countries in New Jerusalem as projected by Jesus Christ holding a cup are the countries in the East to be saved during the nuclear war. The dove represents nuclear devastation, and the crossbones and skull represents death. Another line drawing is a call for the chosen people of God to come to New Jerusalem in the East, which is composed of 13 countries led by the Philippines as the new Israel to be saved in the nuclear war. In the line drawings entitled Five Hearts of the World, shows five biblical characters, namely God with a golden heart that comprises the Philippine archipelago, which is rich in natural resources, especially high-grade quality oil. The heart of Adam in North America boomed with oil, and the heart of Eve in the Gulf of Mexico is also rich in oil. It's oil deposits. The heart of the lion in Siberia, Russia, is rich in oil deposits together with the heart of the snakes, which is in the Middle East, is booming with oil. There are some oil paintings that must be housed in the Museum of Truth for all the people to know. I can see some of the oil paintings drawn by Mr. Abaya. There are more than 1,000 line drawings on the Philippine and world map that needs to be oil painted also. And it needs a generous hand to complete all the oil paintings. For the people throughout the world to see. The messages that it's been trying to convey. I will share to you also some of the stones with different images. Such is, it's up to you to conclude and consider the relevance of this. These stones were taken from the mountains along the Sierra Madre Mountains. Thank you everybody, and God's blessing be bountiful for everyone of us. You can contact me on my cell phone number 0063-999-384-7133. My email address is xyztredoraa777 @yahoo.com. Thank you and good day.